What's up guys and welcome back. Today on Trent's Garage we have some pretty fun, exciting stuff happening. If you guys remember from the last episode, we ended up getting the engine basically mounted in its spot. We got all of the motor mount supports welded to the frame, and then I took it all back apart because everything needed to cool after we welded it. So today we're gonna be painting our motor mounts. We're gonna be getting the motor mounts put back onto the engine and get it mounted to the frame, hopefully fully supported up there. But also, I got a cool new tool. I found the internet's cheapest plasma table to help me cut out pieces of plate for things that I need on this build. I'm very excited about it, and I kind of got it assembled and did some test stuff, but I have some accessories that need to be installed onto it. So right now I'm installing these limit switches, and it's some tiny little tedious work, but I'm gonna get that done before we start moving on to the motor mounts. All right guys, so I finally got the plasma table completely set up. I've actually done some test cuts here. So instead of using 1/4" plate to do my test cuts, this is one of the fish plates that's gonna go on my frame. Now, I already made some of these by hand. They turned out like absolute crap. Now that I've gotten a chance to use the plasma table, I had to design these in CAD, which was very difficult. I have zero experience with CAD. I've been trying to learn online how to do this, and this piece came out perfectly, and it was a very cheap piece of sheet metal. Now I have some 1/4" plate that we're gonna cut those out of, but before we do that, we're gonna handle our motor mounts. So, in one of the previous videos, I made these. They are very rudimentary. They have sharp edges on them. So I'm gonna take these bolts out. I'm gonna use an angle grinder, and I'm gonna kind of smooth out all of the corners on here. Then I'm gonna get both of these painted. And then while they dry, we're gonna start cutting out our fish plates.
Every season, till the end of the world, every moment, all the memories unfurl. I was chasing the shadows.
Well, getting those cleaned up was really easy. All I was doing is taking off all the sharp edges. Now we're ready to paint.
But I lingered. Now I know where I stand. Call it amazing. You wanna do right by me. You know
So I'm painting these motor mounts not just because they look a little bit better or a little bit more professional, but also it protects it so that you don't start rusting. Anytime you have rust and rust gets into your welds, it can end up weakening the welds, it can weaken the steel. If the rust gets deep enough, it can cause cracks or breaks. So adequately painting things that are going to rust in the future is just a good form of protection. Now that I've got those motor mounts painted, they've got a nice thick coat of paint. I'm not gonna do 2 or 3 coats of paint on these because probably they'll end up getting scratched and touched up and everything later on. So I've got one good coat of paint, and while that's drying, I'm actually gonna start getting the plasma table ready. I'm gonna get my 1/4" plate from over here, put it on the plasma table, and hopefully we'll be able to cut out our first fish plate. So I've got this cut out, designed in CAD, and now I've got my plate set up on the actual plasma table. I'm gonna do basically a dry run, which means a run without the plasma cutter operating first, just to make sure that I'm not gonna, that my plate's not crooked or something like that, and that the plasma table is actually gonna cut exactly where my steel lies. My dry run was completely accurate. It was exactly where I need it to be. Now I've got the plasma cutter plugged in. I've got everything ready to go. And we're gonna turn off dry run and fire up the torch and cut out our fish plate.
Wow, exciting. Ah!
All right, the first fish plate is done. There was a couple of complications. I'll show you here what I mean in a second. So this is a little bit aggravating. I'm new to CAD, I'm new to plasma tables, I'm new to basically all of this, so I don't have any experience to tell me like, oh, I should be doing this or I should do that. I'm basically just gonna try and slow the cut process down so I can adjust the speed of which the plasma cutter moves and cuts. I'm gonna try and move the plasma cutter a little bit closer to the metal and go a little bit slower, and hopefully that fully penetrates and actually does what I need it to do. So luckily I have enough metal to cut 4 of these fish plates and I only need 2. So the first one was a learning experience. And I can still keep the steel. I could probably cut it out and use it for different things, so it's not a complete waste. But we're gonna go here for attempt number 2. All right, this one turned out a little bit better. It's not perfect, there was still some issues, but I think it did make a full penetrating cut, at least around the entire piece. I think 1 or 2 of the circles had an issue, but I'm gonna try and pull this off the machine and get the fish plate out. Well, at least that's the piece. Definitely gonna have to be some cleaning up with a grinder, and not the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Hopefully this doesn't mean that my plasma table is a piece of crap and that there's some user error here, some settings maybe that I can change to try and fix this, and then hopefully I'll be able to make these cuts a little bit prettier and the circles will come out a little bit better. All right, well, it looks like the 3rd time is not the charm today. I need to do some more research and see if I can figure out how to run this thing a little bit more efficiently. I don't know if it's the program that I set up, I don't know if it's the setup or the plasma cutter or what the issue is, but it is not working. So I'm gonna revisit that at a different time. The paint on our motor mounts is dry. So now we are actually gonna shift gears. I'm gonna come over here, start lowering down the frame around the engine, get the motor mounts put back together, completely assembled with bolts attached to the engine. And the front end of that frame is actually gonna be supporting some of the engine once we take the cherry picker off of it. I am gonna have to set up something, maybe one of these tires on the back of the frame to kind of cantilever it so that it doesn't fall off the front of the lift, but that's what we're gonna do now.
I love that we still have the protective thing on there.
I don't know.
It's like a...
It's only like 4 years old. You don't wanna damage it. I'm gonna need your help with this. Probably gonna have you start lowering the lift while I get this kind of centered in here, and then when we get to a point where I can pick this up, then we have to finagle the motor mounts in between the frames. All right, so I was able to get our main motor mount bolt through the bushing in there, and I've got 1 bolt attached to the block. The issue is, once these motor mounts are mounted on the engine, it's very difficult to get the motor mounts out from like the frame and between the engine. So that also means it's hard to get them back in. So I got that one in. I'm gonna try and attempt this driver's side. Once I get that bolt through there and at least one of those bolts on, we can kind of manipulate the engine transmission combo until I can get all the bolts into the block, get them all tightened down. Then I'll be able to support the rear transfer case and the rear of the transmission on the frame, and it'll be supported in the frame.
Wow.
Hopefully we get that far.
How's it going? The beaver face says it.
It's not really going. I could pull the starter and it would make this really easy, but I really don't want to do that.
You've got a couple of the bolts in, but not all of the bolts? Is that the problem?
Yeah, I've got 2 out of the 3 on this side.
Okay.
I finally got all 7 of the motor mount bolts that attach the motor mounts to the block completely threaded in and at least kind of like finger tight. And I got both of the motor mount bolts in here. So, what this means is that pretty soon we'll be able to support the transmission across the frame rails, and then we'll be able to like raise this thing up with the engine in there.
You're new at this.
I'm new at this.
There's
new
a
at
difference.
this, and I'm bad at this. What I would like to do is I would like to set the frame, which the engine will be resting on the frame because of these motor mounts now. I'd like to set the frame down on 4 jack stands. And those jack stands will allow me to lower the lift, because right now the lift is only supporting the body. So if I try to like let all of the weight off of the engine hoist, it will just like yank on those body mounts. And there's just these 4 body mounts. They're just these 4 single bolts. And that's a lot of leverage and a lot of pressure on there. I don't really want to do that. So I think what we'll do is I want to try and get 4 jack stands under the frame, lower the lift, and then move the lift arms so that they're supporting the frame instead of supporting the body.
Okay.
I know that this is not recommended, and this is not something that I would ever tell someone to do, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to use this tie-down strap to go over both frame rails and go under the actual transmission and transfer case combo. And then I'm going to tighten this up so that the transmission and transfer case can actually hang from this tie-down strap from the frame rails, and then we'll be able to kind of assess what our balance point looks like and if this can actually be supported, and then we'll go from there. All right, well, the transmission and the transfer case, or at least the transfer case and the rear end of the drivetrain, is supported by that tie-down strap that's through our 2 frame rails. Now I'm gonna kind of toy with the idea of letting some tension off of the engine crane and kind of weighting the front of the frame and see how this responds. Okay. That's not really holding much weight anymore. The engine is basically supported by the frame.
Wow, Trent.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's good, but
It's working.
this is kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Now I need to get the engine crane over to the front axle and get it picked up, and probably a couple tires thrown on it. There is one problem, and that's that if I put tires on here, it's going to make it really difficult to fix my knuckle. So I don't really want to do that yet.
What's wrong with your knuckle?
I tapped holes that were too big.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, so in true Trent's Garage fashion, and pretty much what's been happening this whole video, I'm jumping around to a different project. I'm just doing like a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there. I got the engine completely supported in the frame, but now I need these jack stands that are underneath the front axle, and before I put tires on these on this axle and like take it off the jack stands, I ended up buying some threaded inserts. I went back and forth with the guy who made these arms for me. I got the bigger bolts, they were the wrong thread pitch. It's been an absolute disaster. So I went ahead and got this Easy Lock kit, which comes with the drill bit, the tap, and the threaded inserts, and then I'm gonna be able to use the original studs and washers and nuts that came with the actual arm. So everything is gonna be hopefully really easy using this kit. So I'm gonna grab a drill and I'm gonna drill out these 3 holes, run that tap through all 3 holes, put some threaded inserts in, and then we should be able to throw the studs on and get our steering arm connected.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Trying really hard to make quick work of this. I've got this enormous tap. I'm gonna throw some cutting oil on that thing. A lot of people commented before when I was tapping that I was using a 10mm open end wrench to try and rotate this. And everybody was saying just use a 12-point socket, and I do have a 12-point socket set. So I'll just grab a 10mm 12-point socket, get that thing going, put some cutting oil on there, cut those threads in, throw the inserts in, and we'll be in business, man. It really is awesome how many people comment and like give me pointers and help and things that I really do, you know, need help with or give me advice throughout this build. It's like I'm not just out here in the garage building this thing by myself. I basically have all of you guys giving me feedback and information, which is helping me in the long run. And it's kind of like we're building this truck together. It's fun. Well, I got all 3 holes drilled out, and now I've got all 3 holes tapped to the size of my threaded insert.
Used this kit before?
No, I've never done anything like this. All right, now I've got all 3 of my studs in here with the threaded inserts. And this is the arm. It's supposed to go on top of there. 3 cone washers. Okay. This is not ideal, mostly because this bolt is in there. Those are all tightened down. I could probably torque them and it would be good. This guy is not coming in or out.
What?
He's got a massive bind on him. These holes are like not perfectly lined up, which might have happened if I had drilled the holes like right the first time. But the fact that I've had to like step the drill bit up and tap it multiple times, the holes could have gotten off, off angle from where they were supposed to be. I don't really know. What I do know is that this stud is not fully buried inside the knuckle, and these 2 are. And I think that's okay. I don't really know. The threaded insert just kept threading into where I cut the threads. So like, I couldn't like stop it at the top and like make it sit at the top. It wanted to thread all the way down in. So now, at least I got those studs on, and this is my double shear. The thing about this is without doing a double shear setup like this, people normally just bolt to this steering arm right here. They don't even use this top piece. So this is all just like extra credit to make it so that it's like a lot stronger and you're not gonna break, the end of the knuckle off here or something, or shear that bolt off. This just makes it so that this bolt is a lot bigger and stronger, and it has 2 points of kind of like triangulation against the force. Hopefully it was worth all of the trouble that I went through to make this happen. All right, I got the steering knuckle completely squared away. It is basically ready to have the full hydro setup, completely set up on it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take over the cherry picker, and I'm actually gonna pick up that axle, get those jack stands out from underneath it so I can support this frame, and then we can relocate our lift to go underneath the frame, pick this thing all the way up in the air and start working underneath it and getting everything mocked up. Jack stands are free. Go ahead and get some nice support here. Taking the body and the weight of the truck off of the lift for like basically the first time. That's pretty cool. Up there. The engine is mounted to the frame. The frame is not complete. I know a lot of people were really concerned that this 1 3/4 inch DOM tubing was not sufficient for like a frame rail. But if you look at like a tube buggy or dune buggies or anything like that, they have a lot of different supports that attach to their frame rails, but they're usually made of tube, just like this. So the front end of this thing is gonna end up having 3 or 4 different sections of tube that all connect together and make a really strong, rigid front end. Right now it looks extremely weak, but it can hold the engine, as you guys just saw. It's been holding the engine basically all day, so That's cool. We got the axle put back on the jack stands over here after we borrowed them to get the lift underneath the frame, because before the lift was just under the body, it was just holding the body going up and down. Now the lift is holding the frame, the body, the engine, the transmission, the transfer case, everything. It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's pretty exciting. I do need to get some cross supports in here that I'm gonna weld up. That's gonna be like a transmission cross member, and then there's gonna be a transfer case cross member that also gets welded in there, so that'll be happening pretty soon, and then we can get our frame completely braced and boxed across. And then once I get everything kind of set up how I want it, I'm gonna take the body off and try and finish all the welds that I can't get to while the body's on, and try and get everything painted. Make sure you guys hold me to that, because I will be one of those guys that's like, oh, I don't need to take the body off. Those welds are fine. I don't need to paint it, so hold me accountable. I know there was a lot of random hodgepodge and different projects that took place in this video, but I hope you guys enjoyed coming along. Hopefully I'll have the plasma table figured out by the next episode and we can start working on our fish plates. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you show me by giving a big thumbs up on today's video. Don't forget to leave a comment and let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys on the next one.